So we do ask that you please continue moving in and all the way across the theater. If there is anyone in your party or group, anyone who would like this in closed captioning, please raise your hand so we can get that started for you. As I said, this is an 8-minute presentation on the beginning of NASA's Apollo program. If there is anyone who needs to exit for any reason during the presentation, please do so through the double doors at the back corner of the theater only. We do ask as a courtesy to others that there be no smoking in the building at any time or flash photography in any of the theaters during the presentation. Now our last show is recycling at this time. We'll get our other guest in and I'll give you some information on the exhibit hall. Also, as we enter the firing room theater for Jim Lovell's Apollo 8 launch, any wheelchairs, strollers, anyone with any difficulty with steps, please exit through the door to your far left or directly behind me. Now in the firing room, you will see some of the actual consoles that were used during the moon launches. That is a 10-minute presentation, and just through their exit doors, there are restrooms and water fountains to your left, and at that time you will be in the main exhibit hall. We would like to also invite you to experience Neil Armstrong's historic moon landing in the Lunar Theater, located at the nose end, to the left of the nose end of the Saturn V rocket. And if this is your first visit with us, you want to be sure to visit the Lunar Theater. It's a wonderful show. And then it's a 12-minute presentation. Also in the Treasure Gallery, you will see the actual Apollo 14 capsule, the Kitty Hawk. And now it is with great pride that we present the historic story of NASA's Apollo program, one of the greatest adventures humankind has ever experienced. Thank you all for visiting with us today and enjoy your tour.
When I was a kid, I used to dream about flying through space. Every week on TV, I'd watch my heroes as they jumped into their rocket ships and took to the stars. And I wanted to be like them. They had courage, imagination, and no problem ever stood in their way for long. You know, in the end, when we actually did send men into space, it turned out that those were exactly the qualities it took. I'm John Hudson. This is Pad 39 of the Kennedy Space Center. I was a launch controller here when from this very spot, man took off to fly to the moon. It was a journey that began 12 years before that rocket ever left the ground. And it started on the other side of the world. Back then, we were one of two superpowers that always seemed to be on the edge of a terrible war. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first ever man-made satellite into Earth orbit. They called it Sputnik, which means traveling companion. And in a world where peace hung in a delicate balance, it seemed to create a dangerous advantage. Every ham radio operator in America could hear it beeping. People were afraid. Were the Soviets looking down on us? Watching us? If they could make a satellite pass over our cities, could they do the same with a bomb? Our own space program kicked into high gear, and less than 2 months later, we were ready to launch our own satellite. The space race, and we were running a distant second. In 1961, we fell even further behind. Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man into space, circling the world in just 89 minutes. We had our own astronauts, and they were eager and ready to take the big ride. But our manned space program couldn't seem to get off the ground. We stuck with it, and on May 5th, 1961, things finally started going right. Astronaut Alan Shepard took his ship Freedom 7 6.5 miles into space. America had its first space hero. Just a few days later, our space program received a new challenge. But this one did not come from the Soviet Union. It came from our young president. In one inspiring moment, he changed the mission from one based in fear of the present to one of hope for the future.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
We hadn't been more than 16 minutes into space, and now we were going to the moon. We would have to design a rocket the size of a 36-story office building, put it together with the precision of a microscope, and accelerate it to the speed of a bullet. Then we would have to guide it to a moving target 250,000 miles away. Many people thought it was an impossible dream, but 400,000 of us set about making that dream a reality. It would be the longest, most hazardous voyage that any man had dared to attempt. But step by step, mission by mission, we orbited the Earth, perfecting the skills and technologies we would need on this incredible journey. Our astronauts practiced maneuvering, docking, and the 1,000 other tasks that would comprise the moon mission. We created new alloys, lighter and stronger than anything seen before. We designed communication systems that would be reliable over the vast distances. And behind it all, we tried to perfect the rocket that would be powerful enough to punch out of Earth orbit and take us to the moon.